Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to this series. I've been away for a long time. To be honest, I took a break from Street Fighter, it was kind of annoying me. But we're back, we are back with Ingrid, who I think is going to be my main. She is amazingly a combination of all my three previous mains, Dalsim, Lily and Ryu. This will, as previously, be a guide rank by rank, iron to bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, introducing ideas one at a time to help you master this character. It's a beginner focused series, so it's really about explaining everything in excruciating detail, unlike a lot of the content that you'll get from the pros and people who stream all the time. Let's talk about what sort of character Ingrid is. So as I mentioned, she is a hybrid. She has to do stocks, which is quite important to her. She has obviously a lot of zoning. She is very fireballs oriented. But unlike Dalsim or even JP, I would say, she's much more of a hybrid zoner in that she's not meant to be playing the game at full screen like this, the way Dalsim and JP do, especially Dalsim. She's instead meant to probably be about here, where she can really frustrate with fireballs. So putting a fireball just in front of your opponent is very effective. And you can do that especially with the medium fireball. The OD fireball is amazing because you can put it out and put out fireballs above you at the same time, because it doesn't stop you having two fireballs. And in this zone, she is then able to also use her really quite good buttons. So this heavy punch is a fantastic button, such good range, quite safe on block, which we'll explain momentarily. Right, -5 on block, ain't no one punishing you from this far away. This button is very similar to Mai's heavy kick, which everyone agrees is one of the best buttons in the game. And when you get a punish counter with this button, amazing stuff. I've got him on block everything. You've got the forward heavy punch there. This thing gives you the crumple. The forward heavy punch is another one of her best buttons. Really nice, does low crush, so if your opponent's trying to sweep you, this will jump over the sweep and hit them, and this converts into her big damage combos. Right, most of the time she'll just be poking with back medium kick like this. Once you get really good, you can confirm this with the heavy punch, but as a beginner you shouldn't be trying to do that. Just use this as a poke to keep your opponent away from you, set up your fireballs, get your stocks charged. So yeah, hybrid zoner, so you want to play in the mid screen here. You do want to get whiff punishes as you get better at the game. You shouldn't really need that until you get to like platinum, I reckon, at least. And yeah, mostly just zoning, frustrating people with zoning, getting them to overcommit. Now, is Ingrid a good beginner character? I think yes and no. Her moves are very easy to execute. They're just a bunch of quarter circle motions. But she is a little bit harder to get started with just because she really demands that you do some tricky combos. So the one I showed you before, this is absolute bread and butter for her. And like, it's not a hard combo to do. Spend half an hour on it, you'll get it. Very consistent, but it is more demanding than like Ryu's basic combos, you know what I mean? So she does require slightly harder combos. That's especially true for her level 2, but even the level 2, you can pretty easily just do something like this. I mean, that was trivially easy. We did plenty of damage. It was good stuff. And the main combo that you'll see from level 2, which we'll talk about more in gold, is this one. So on block, you just throw them into it, and then you can hit them out once they're in the air. So overall, I think she's pretty easy to use. And yeah, definitely a beginner-friendly character. I'd say she's quite powerful. I don't think she's broken like some people say on the internet. Of course, everyone says that the new characters are broken. They say that because of this move, which does huge damage. But it's got an 18 frame startup, so it's the same speed as any fireball. And she has to stock twice. Which is a lot, and then usually she also needs to get a big whiff punish in order to use that damage. So I would say that once you get the kind of skill competency of a platinum or diamond player, she starts to be like, yeah, really quite powerful. But up until that point, she's probably harder to use and weaker than some of the Shoto characters like Akuma. Alright, so that's her basic game plan. Stay kind of at this range, throw fireballs, uppercut people when they try to anti-air you. Sorry, when they try to jump in on you. This is probably one of the things that makes Ingrid relatively hard to use for beginners. Like, this is a much more complicated command, quarter circle forward, than like crouch heavy punch, which is what a lot of people use for their anti-airs. But this is also invincible to air attacks. If your opponent jumps at you, you are invincible to that air attack. If you watch him, his foot will come into my head and yet he won't connect because I cannot be damaged by air attacks. And in addition, this move cannot be hit, is invincible to air fireballs, which is going to be really nice against Akuma. Alright, so we hybrid zoning, we've got our game plan, it's fireball, uppercut. Obviously you don't want to throw fireballs all the time because drive impact is in this game and it will wreck you. So we also want to mix that up by just faking, so pressing buttons like this, just to make your opponent think that you're about to throw a fireball, but you're actually not. We also want to throw in this fireball occasionally, especially when our opponent is really close, because it will hit them really nicely. Got to be a bit closer than that. There we go. And we want to use back kick medium a lot. Even kick medium sometimes not a bad option. Alright, cool. And then we are looking, hopefully, eventually, to get this combo off, right? That's what we're looking for. In the early stages, you should just be able to block and wait for something to punish, which we'll talk about in the bronze video. The bronze video is all about punishes. Okay, so how to get started with Ingrid. Let's go into training mode, which is where we are. I'm going to save state here. Let's get familiar with training mode. So the first thing to do is get familiar with all her attacks, right? So we go to command list. You can look at all her different attacks here. Supers, unique attacks. We're not going to bother with a lot of this stuff for now. The main thing we are going to bother with is just getting good at her specials. So the first thing you should do is go to basic settings, shortcut settings, and establish a shortcut for restart battle, save status, replay save status. Right? These are the most important ones. We're also going to be using play recording quite soon, so I would suggest that you set a shortcut button for that as well. So we want to save status here in the neutral, where the game starts us off, and then we're going to be able to replay that save status by pressing one button. So here I'm walking around and I always come back to that save status. All right, from here, we want to get used to our fireballs. So start on the left and just execute every move 10 times, right? Now note that if you try to fireball while a fireball is already on the screen, you just get the light punch, right? So you have to wait for the fireball to touch your opponent and then you can throw another one. All right, let's start with that. Then move to the medium fireball. Note the change in distance. So the light fireball is right out in front of her, the medium fireball is further away. And generally speaking, that's where you want to put the fireball, right in front of your opponent. You don't actually want to hit them. So that stops them from coming towards you for the maximum amount of time. And it's really frustrating, and then you can get in behind it and get pressure. All right, once you've done your fireballs 10 times on the left, then you want to swap to the right and do the same thing. Right, 10 times each, 10 times in a row. So if you do one and then all of a sudden you don't get it, I don't really know how you'd get it, you do something like that, then you reset to 0. So you have to be able to do this flawlessly. It's very important. Okay, shouldn't be too hard. What's the common execution error I find on people using joypad is that they don't complete the whole motion before pressing punch. So they're doing something like this. If you see my inputs there on the left-hand side, the punch came too soon before I had pressed the punch button. On hitbox, you shouldn't have any problems. On keyboard, if that's what you're playing on, what often happens is that keyboards limit the number of inputs you can put at once, and so they will just drop inputs. And generally, keyboard is not a good option for Street Fighter. I would not recommend it. If you are using a keyboard, absolutely make sure it is a cable keyboard and not a wireless keyboard, because wireless keyboards will drop even more inputs, and you really don't want that. All right. So once you've done all of those, then we're gonna do our next special, which is this one. Now, because it's the exact same motion, once you've done 10 of the lights, which is your uppercut, you then want to swap to something a little bit more complicated. So go to the dummy settings, put it to block after first hit. This is how we practice our combos. And we're going to do heavy kick. Now see down the bottom there, it says 4F in blue. So that means 4 frames. And it means that we are +4. So if we press another button now that is only 4 frames, we will combo. 4 frames is as fast as a button can get in Street Fighter. Ingrid has 2 4-frame buttons, jab and crouch jab. So we want to go jab, 4. Okay, 5-hit combo. That's all we want to do. All right, this is going to be one of our bread and butter combos. So we need to be pretty good at it. And crouch light punch is even better because it has slightly more range. So if you want to be pedantic, try going for that. If you do the heavy kick by accident, you won't combo, right? So just try to do 10 on either side. Good. And then the final one is the heavy uppercut. This is a combo ender and it doesn't combo off much. Basically, the only thing you can combo this off is a drive rush crouching heavy punch, right? That is about it. And so if you're feeling up to it, you're gonna need this move pretty soon. So you might wanna practice holding the parry, double tap forward to get the drive rush, and then cancel that into the heavy kick. What do I mean by cancel? Well, what we have to understand is that there are 2 sorts of combos. There are cancel combos and there are link combos. So the combo we did first, this one, this is a link. So the heavy kick animation needs to finish and then we have time to press jab afterwards. Right, and then we still get the combo. When you do a cancel, the animation doesn't finish. In fact, if I let the animation finish on crouching heavy punch, I won't get the special move, right? It just won't come out. You can see my inputs there. I am pressing, wow, you can cancel this really late. See, I'm pressing the heavy kick cancel, it's not coming out. I have to press it halfway through the crouching heavy punch. And you see it doesn't combo there. So it only combos when we get a drive rush on the heavy punch. Why is that? It's because heavy punch is +1 on hit, which isn't enough time, isn't enough frame advantage for the heavy uppercut to come out. When you drive rush in this game, you get +4 frames. So here we are +5, and that gives you enough frame advantage for this to combo. Now the last thing we want to add here is that when you finish this move, you can stock in the air. Right? So you want to get used to that. You want to do drive rush and then stock in the air. Another thing we want to do is we don't just want to hold parry like this forever. It's cute watching Ingrid clap, but it's not ideal. What we want to do instead is try to be quick about this, right? If you get it just right, there'll be no blue flash, right? If you press forward parry forward, it'll basically be instantaneous, right? Right? It'd be worth practicing that. It will come in handy later in the game, right? The faster you can do this, the better. But for now, the main thing is to get this combo down. All right. So once you've practiced that 10 times, then we can move on to practicing our basic defensive motions. In the early stages of Street Fighter, you basically don't need to play aggressive. I don't say that because I'm a particularly defensive person. I say that because people take insane risks at the lower level of the game. People would just be doing this sort of thing at you all the time. And all you have to do is block. And then, like if I put Akuma on block all, right? And then I do something like this. Now he's got 24 frames to punish me. I can't block for 24 frames after I miss with this. So he can do heaps of nasty stuff to me, right? So what we want to do is mostly just block. That's why we do these little harassment moves like this. And we just try to get our opponent to overexpose themselves, and then we're going to punish them. what are the three most basic punishes, right? They are, first, the jump in punish, right? So we're gonna set up a bunch of recordings. So the first recording, Akuma's just gonna jump. I just want you to record that. Just press enter on the record. Let's have a look. So go to the recording settings, press to the right to get to the recording, slot 1, press select and immediately press jump. All right, let's do it even faster. That's all you want. All right, then the next few slots, we're gonna do the same thing, jump, and then drive impact. Then we're gonna have jump and jump forward and attack, okay? Let's turn on jump and jump forward. And now you wanna use that shortcut setting that you have before for activate replay, right? Finally, you wanna go over to the recording settings again, and down here at the bottom on repeat replay, you wanna say on and always repeat playback. What that means is that every time you restart, he's just gonna do his replay, right? Right, and we're just gonna practice anti-airing the jump in. And see, the reason why we have that first jump is so that he doesn't always jump, or he doesn't always jump forward, I should say. Right, so we have to pay a little bit of attention to what's going on. And we just wanna get all these jump ins 100%. Anti-airs are the most important thing in Street Fighter. More important than anything else. If you are not anti-airing with at least 90% consistency with a character like Ingrid, you will lose to scrubs. Because jump-ins do colossal amounts of damage in this game, and they also do colossal amounts of corner carry. So even a bad player who only has this jump-in combo, if you let them jump at you, they will take off a third of your life and they will have you in the corner. So we have to get really, really good at anti-airs. Once you feel very confident at anti-airs, and make sure you practice them on both sides, then we want to make things a bit more complicated, right? Then we want to go back to our recording settings and turn on the drive impact as well. So now that we're looking for two things, we have more on our cognitive stack, and that makes things a lot more difficult. Here we want to do that combo we practiced earlier. So heavy kick, jab, medium uppercut. All right. If you want, you can also practice this one. All right. These are our two main drive impact punishers. Don't let him get ya. So that's number one. We've got our basic punishers, right? Now we need to get a little bit more realistic with the situation, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to swap to a different character, and that character is going to be Zangief. So we can go to environment settings and choose Zangief here. All right, let's talk about movement for a bit. In Street Fighter, you don't want to be stationary and you don't want to be crouch blocking, right? Obviously, if you're moving around like this, it's easy to sweep you. And I must confess that I get swept too often. But generally speaking, we want to move around like this because Street Fighter is a game of spacing. If I put out my kick medium like this and miss, there, now my opponent can whiff punish this button, right? And a lot of the game is about getting just outside your opponent's range, encouraging them to press a big button like this, and when they miss, you can punish them real hard, right? Let's try and have an example of that. This is very advanced, so don't bother trying to do this, but I'll go into block reversal. I'll do something like crouch medium punch. All right. There you go, right? So he's too far away to hit me with his medium punch. And so when he swings, I can punish his button. Right, and this is a big part of the game and a big part of Ingrid, because if you do this, you get nice huge combos like that. Oops. Right, that's Ingrid's kind of bread and butter combo. 4,000 damage, absolutely colossal amount of damage for a pretty easy whiff punish. All right, let's turn that off. That was just for illustrative purposes. But anyway, in order to get that kind of spacing effect, you want to be moving like this. So your opponent never knows what sort of range you're going to be at, which one of these fireballs you're about to put out, whether you're coming in for a poke, later on whether you're coming in for drive rush, whether you're going to hit them with these ones, this kind of stuff, all right? So always moving about like this. But as I said, if you're always moving about like this, people will see that and they'll start to sweep you, right? And they'll start to do this especially, right? So this is low forward drive rush, which Ingrid has, which is it's one of the most powerful things in the game. Not every character has it, but all the best characters have it, except JP, but he has something pretty close. So Mai has it, Akuma has it, Ken, Ryu, I don't know who are Luke. Like a lot of people have this, and it's absolutely one of the most powerful things in the game. All right, so you want to try not to get swept, right? And that means that when you're moving around, you also want to be crouch blocking occasionally. All right, so just get in the habit of moving, crouch blocking, fireball, crouch blocking, fake the fireball, throw another one, fake the fireball, throw another one, crouch block, okay? That's the general idea. Don't try to just be moving away all the time, right? You don't want to get in this bad habit as a zoner of being too defensive and backdashing, right? You're never going to win with Ingrid just throwing fireballs, okay? They don't do enough damage. Right, at some point you are going to need to do something that hits harder than that, and so you want to stay around here. Sometimes after you fireball, you want to come in with the teleport, okay? So the teleport is down and 3 kicks, and see that it is +2. Right, +2 means that I have 2 frames of advantage before my opponent recovers from their block, and that means that I can throw. So a throw is 5 frames. The fastest frame Zangief has is 4, maybe even 5. So Zangief basically, if I hit him with this, can't stop me from throwing him except by jumping or backdashing, right? So this is a real free get in move, but if you do it randomly in the neutral like this, people can just beat it with drive impact, right? They can see this flash from the teleport, drive impact on reaction, and they'll beat it. If you're throwing this already though, and they've just blocked that, then you can get him for free, right? And that's one of Ingrid's main things to be doing, is getting him for free using that technique. She has 2 other teleports, of course. She has her defensive teleport. This you use to fake people out. So if you see that people are drive impacting all the time, you can go backwards, but it can still be hard to punish the drive impact because you're very far away. And the other one she has is this, and that's for converting off different buttons. So you'll get better later at doing this sort of thing. Right, now that is fantastic. We did a huge amount of damage, 2,500 damage. And we covered half the screen, and our opponent's still really far away from us, so we can set our zoning back up, or get more stocks and just do it again. Right, so that's a big part of Ingrid as well, is using the Omega Beam, is what I'm going to call it, and following up with 3 kicks. Now, if you don't hit with the Omega Beam, then don't follow up with this because it's -3, which means the situation from before with the butt slam is reversed. So now Zangief can throw you, and there's not much you can do about it except risky moves like backdash and jump. Jump is immune to throws, backdash is immune to throws as well. We'll talk about that momentarily. All right, now we need to introduce a couple more punishes. All right, so the first punish we need to introduce is the sweep punish. So what I want you to do is go to reversal settings, go to block reversal, select crouching heavy kick on Zangief, right? It should turn on automatically. Then we go back to dummy settings and we put on block all. The reason why we are going to practice sweep punishing is because in the low grades, people press sweep all the time. Sweep is crouching heavy kick or the equivalent button on other characters. Like for Aki, it's crouching heavy punch. But it's still a sweep, it knocks you down, it's usually got quite long range, right? That's Zangief's sweep. You can see that it's -13, right? So I have a 13 frame advantage. If I block, I recover from my block stun 13 frames before Zangief retracts his leg. If I hit him within that 13 frames, I will get a punish counter. Let's have a look. There we go, punish counter. After the punish counter, I have 23 frames of advantage, which is a huge amount, right? So if I punish counter him there, I can get this combo off, right? Really nice, 3,000 damage, and that's not the end of that combo. Right, so I hope you've seen how we've been building up to this, right? So before I showed you how to do this move when we were practicing our special moves. Now we're using that as part of a big combo because we've got this one and that gives a ground bounce. The air Omega Beam gives you the ground bounce, and then you follow up the ground bounce with Drive Rush into that combo. Okay, nice stuff. So all you want to do, get close to Zangief here, save state. You don't need to be super close to him, maybe there, and then just press a button and block. Right, that's quite a realistic scenario. We're poking with our back medium kick. He's trying to punish us with a sweep, but he's too slow because remember back medium kick, let's turn off his reversal for a second, is only -4. Zangief's sweep is a 9-frame button, so he doesn't get out in time to punish us. In fact, it might even be a 12-frame button. Yeah, it's a 12-frame button, and it's -13. So we do this, he kicks us, and then we punish him, right? That's enough there, even just getting that, but what we really want to do is convert that punish counter into big damage. Now see what happened there is I was too slow, and there is quite a tight window on this conversion. So if you get the punish counter, you have to do Drive Rush, Crouching Heavy Punch quite quickly, all right? If it's too slow, he will block. Let's have a look. Right, way too slow there. But even there, too slow, right? But if you get it fast, it's not too hard to do, honestly. Then you'll see that we get the 6-hit combo, right? And we can charge up in the air. All right, so practice first that punish. Well, first just practice heavy punch, right? And make sure that you're getting the punish counter. If you're too slow at pressing the heavy punch, he will block it. So we want to get in the habit of being nice and quick on that. The trick to look out for with the timing is the blue color that comes when you're blocking. That's your block stun. As that wears off, you will be able to press a button. And for a couple of frames before it wears off, a buffer window opens up in the game that allows you to put your button in there. But if you put the button in too quick, as I did there twice, then it won't come out, right? So we need to be a bit patient, and then the punish counter happens. Once you're confident getting the punish counter, then try to get more confident with this combo. All right. Once you're confident with that, get confident with that combo. So that is heavy punch, forward heavy punch, and we cancel it into the OD beam. So quarter circle back and punch. All right. Let's try it again. And once you get confident with that, right, and that's the full combo. 3,922 damage, absolutely colossal amount of damage for 3 bars. 3 bars of drive gauge, that's the green stuff at the top. And we got like half a screen of corner carry. So you see that Zangief starts in the middle of the screen here. And by the time we finish the combo, he's at the other end of the screen and we're +5 so we can continue pressuring on our wake up. We'll talk about that in the silver video. All right, so that's our first thing, the sweep punish, right? So we've talked about the drive impact punish, the jump in punish, and the sweep punish. The only thing that's left is the super or uppercut punish. This will be a good opportunity to teach wake up reversal. So now we go to dummy setting. We put him back on block after first hit so we can practice our combo. we go back to reversal settings, and now we're in wake up reversal. So when he's getting off the ground, he's going to do this, and you want to select special moves, Gol Shoryuken, that's his uppercut. We select that one. Now the uppercut is invincible. So when he wakes up, if I try to punch him, he's just going to blast right through it. Wrecked. Now you will find, until quite high levels of the game, that people use this option way too much, right? They think, oh cool, I'm invincible, no one can pressure me. They think, I'm invincible. But what actually happens is this. And now we're back in that situation we were in before with Zangief, right? Akuma basically dies if he gets hit twice, right? Now, part of the reason why people in the lower grades do this so much is because most people in the lower grades can't punish the uppercut with big damage. So you really need to practice this situation so that you can punish it for big damage. Right? That's all we need for now. All right, so keep practicing that. Make sure you do it from the left side and the right side. And then we want to go back to Zangief, and I'll show you why. The reason why I like to do some stuff with Zangief, our most realistic drill, is because he has a really nice low hitting jumping. So I'll show it to you now. So his jumping medium kick is really sharply downward angled, so it doesn't give you a lot of time to get your uppercut out. And so that makes it really good for practicing your anti-airs, right? So what we want to do is have a recording where he jumps at us and does that kick. And then we also want, let's save state in the middle. We want one recording where Zangief goes forward, back, forward, forward, back, forward. And so he's just gradually coming towards us on this recording, all right? He's menacing us, yeah? Then we have one where he does back, forward, back. So now he's moving away from us slightly. And then we want a final recording where he's just moving forward, yeah? And so now if I turn all of these on, Zangief's moving kind of realistically. Now this little wiggle that he does helps you to practice the distance for this back medium kick, right? That's what we're doing here, yeah? Just trying to get that right, all right? You can also use crouch medium kick because later on we'll be doing not that, but this, right? But always try to be hitting more or less with the tip of your foot. So we don't want to be doing this because then if we get blocked, we'll be too close, right? This is all we're doing here. All right. Once you're comfortable with that, then we introduce the jump hit. And now we're just waiting realistically for the jump. Once you get comfortable with that, mix in your kicks again. You do fireballs too. And that's something you really want to get in the habit of. You've thrown a fireball and they've jumped, don't panic, because you can probably still get a fireball out. Remember as well to practice your fireball fakes. So you're not always throwing a fireball, sometimes you're just faking. Anytime you see him jump, we're just going to uppercut him, right? This is hard, okay? Don't beat yourself up if you don't get it down straight away. I've spent dozens of hours just on this drill, especially practicing when he jumps over you, right? Now Zangief doesn't do that a whole lot compared to some other characters, but it's worth practicing that too. So if you're right in front of his face and he jumps over you, you have to do the uppercut motion in the opposite direction. Right. This is called a cross cut. If you have a dragon punch motion, it's different. With Ingrid, I would just do the quarter circle back in the opposite direction. Right, but it's very hard to cross Ingrid up because her flip goes straight up over her head. So even if someone's behind you, like Zangief was there, she's still gonna hit it. This is one of the best anti-airs in the whole game. It's 8 frames, which is really quick. It's invincible to not just jump ins, but also to fireballs, which is crazy. Air fireballs can't hurt you. Amazing stuff. And it's got this huge hurt box that goes like behind Ingrid. So you basically can't cross her up. Right, the only time you're really going to need cross cuts is when people are jumping out of the corner. And we'll cover that in maybe platinum, right? So that's very advanced. Okay, once you've got that, we want to add a couple more things to Zangief's arsenal. The first one is going to be... Is he going to do it? Yeah. The running bear grab, right? We're using the OD running bear grab because it's got armor. So it's very hard to stop. Because it's much faster than the other bear grabs. As in he runs at you quite quickly. Look at that. That was fast as, man. Right? If you're very far away from him, then he throws his hands up first. And that makes it very easy to stop. But if you're close to him here, then he just runs at you real quick. We want to practice punishing that, right? Now, one thing that's cool about this situation is that when you get the jump in normally, you are only, if you're hitting him on top of the head, you are +9, +8, right? So that doesn't give you even enough frames to get this out. This kick is deceptive. It's 9 frames, but it doesn't start hitting your opponent until her foot is like in front of her face. And so it doesn't actually combo when you have 9 frames of advantage. There it did, that was cool. Yep, see, it doesn't combo in a lot of cases. So we've got 2 options. We either fall a bit further before we hit Zangief. So we hit him more in the chest, and now we're at +13. And then we can combo it. Or if we punish counter him. So when he does the bear grab, because he's still recovering from the bear grab, it's just like the sweep situation where he was -13. Here he is also minus. And because of that, you can see that I'm +17, right? And that means I can get the crouching heavy punch, which I couldn't usually get because crouching heavy punch is a 12 frame button. Right? Now that still doesn't combo into the heavy, right? You can see that the combo count resets there. So what we want to do instead is the medium one, medium uppercut. Right, that will combo. Or if you have the drive gauge, the reason why we often want to be using the drive cancel is because it has a really good okazeme situation. We dash, where we're on top of him, is really good. All right, we are +5. I'll talk about that in the silver video, but it's worth practicing both the medium kick option and the drive rush cancel. In order to do the drive rush cancel, halfway through this crouching heavy punch, you've got to press parry. Okay, and then you will get the drive rush cancel. And then once you're in the drive rush, just press crouching heavy punch and it will come out as soon as it can possibly come out, right? So that should be relatively easy. And then it's just the normal thing of canceling that into your big jump. Don't forget to stop. Okay, so we add in the running bear grab, we add in the jump. Oops. Right, and now we just want to beat all his options. Let's get realistic with it. Ooh, I was slow. What? Don't let him jump. Try to keep it realistic. Remember that we should be crouch blocking occasionally. Now the reason why we are jumping, of course, when he does the running bear grab, is that jump is immune to throw, remember? So So the other thing we could do is backdash, but you can't backdash the Siberian Express because he's running at you, right? You can only jump. So when you're a beginner, I think you should mostly be looking at the air because that's where most people will attack from. And then you just want to try to also be ready for the Siberian Express, which I was not. But in any case, we're going to keep going with that for a bit, and then the final thing we're going to add in, a couple of things actually. So first we're going to add in, no, not that one, the drive impact. So you can turn off all the things that you had on, so he's just walking around and occasionally drive impacts. And we want to do our usual punishes. Patient. Okay. Now, once you've got those in, the final thing to add, which is, I think, perhaps the most important, is just a sweep. Okay? And so now again, add those in. Just have the sweep. And now we want to play closer to Zangief. Right? And we just want to make sure we're blocking the sweep and getting the punish counter. And this is going to help us practice both our punishes and walking and blocking, right? So if we get swept, then we know we're not crouch blocking properly. Right? You can also punish sweeps with sweeps, which is often a good option because you get good okizeme. Once you're comfortable with all of these, turn them all on. Turn the jumps on, turn the sweeps on, turn the drive impacts on. And now we've got a slightly realistic scenario where Geef's trying to hit us with all sorts of nonsense, right? I have the jump in on a 3x selection rate because I think we mostly want to defend against jump-ins. Right? But he will do the other stuff too. Once you've got it on one side, swap over to the other. Because we need to be good at our uppercuts from both sides. Try to play relatively close to him so that you can practice your sweeps. And also so that Siberian Express can really wreck you because you're very close. Alright, but that's basically it. You've basically covered everything to do with the basics of Ingrid, and I think against most players at this level, you will just be able to walk around like this, throw fireballs occasionally. You'll be fine. You'll get your way to bronze, and then you really want to watch the bronze video straight away, which is about all the other punishes in the game. Super important. And then the silver video, Okizeme. Those three videos will get you all the way to diamond. If your anti-airs are solid, right? Your anti-airs just need to be solid. Alright, I will see you in the bronze video.